What's going on, guys? Gio with Level Up Design here. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about a practice that it's kind of funny initially thinking about it, but it actually leads to something super important when it comes to any level designer, artist, whatever the case is, and building up their map, world, area, interaction, etc., etc. But today we're going to talk about where is the toilet. Again, interesting kind of title for it, but it's actually an interesting blog post I read about, and I thought it was something cool to share. So I'll put a link in the description as well, so you guys can check that out if you like. But nonetheless, let's go a little more into that in the next part. All right, cool. So we have just one of the example maps that I've been doing for one of the projects I'm working on. So the whole concept of this video, right? Where's a toilet? It's not necessarily meaning like, oh man, the character has to use a bathroom. Likely, but you don't see that happen very often, right? Oh, bitch! When it comes to where's the toilet is a big part of level design, which is research, right? Research is a big part of going into like the starting phases of making your level, right? It's because I've been through this before, and it sucks, right? Because it's kind of like diminishes the drive in making a level. But basically, you get an idea, right? Like, okay, cool, I want to make a really awesome mansion. Sweet, that's great, right? And then you get to set up the project, you have your blank screen, or you have your sketch, and you're ready to go. And you have absolutely no idea what to do. Or if you're an engine already, and you're building something out, right? And you're kind of making the walls, doing the stairs, the rooms, and it's all kind of jumbled up, right? You don't really have like a clear organization with it. Going up the stairs, one way leads this way, one way leads that way, so on. And that's what kind of goes into that concept, right? The where's toilet does refer to if you're building a mansion, right? You're gonna need a toilet. But it doesn't necessarily just directly only mean that. It means doing research, right? So when you're gonna be getting an idea set up and you want to start making a new level, making a new map, whatever the case is, you do your research. So you want to look up, the theme of the map. What do you want to try to aim for? Do you want to aim for like, medieval, Victorian era, cyberpunk, futuristic, apocalyptic, so on? A lot of different ways you could go into that. And then with getting that, you also want to think about, all right, so how is typically in this example a mansion laid out, right? So, in any, for most, buildings, houses, whatever, you're gonna have, multiple rooms. Could be potentially multiple bathrooms, bedrooms, living rooms, maybe like a little patio. It could be a balcony, and stairs if it's gonna be a 2-story, 3-story, whatever. Windows, and then you have all the other accessories, a kitchen, bathrooms, again, focusing on that. But it's basically doing the research that you need in order to build out that level, right? So just to kind of go with this example, right? This is actually supposed to be a lobby. So it's like the second stage of a map, or a game that I'm working on. So basically what I did to start out is, okay, let's pull up some examples of what lobbies look like. What's in a lobby, right? And you could really go and do research on it, which is definitely fine. I think that's what you should do. And you could also go based off experiences. Whenever if you've ever stayed at a hotel, which I think most people have at some point, you kind of get an idea of, all right, what do I usually see in a hotel? Most of them are going to have stairs, right? Like some sort of stairway entrance, because you could have, and with that, you're going to have elevators, which is what I have here. But if you have elevators, you have to have stairs, because fire emergency, all that nonsense, all that drama. And then with that being said, you're also gonna have bathrooms. Usually it's it could be a shared bathroom, it could be 2 bathrooms, it could be a closet area too that kind of turns into a bathroom. What else happens in the lobby? You usually have a restaurant in a hotel, whether it's like a small little thing, or it could be a really big grand one with a back kitchen and the stove tops, all that other stuff. What else are we gonna have, right? So you're gonna have a reception area, because you go in to check somewhere. You just don't walk into a room and claim it for yourself, right? Like King of the Hill. But you have a reception area to go and check in. You also have sometimes, if it's like a bigger hotel, like a bar lounge area separate from the restaurant, to get, have people just kind of wait in there and hang out while they're waiting for the room to be cleaned, or if they're waiting for the room just to be ready, they'll go in there and hang out, which is kind of what I have here. And we have the reception area. This little area I put on here, which is like a concierge area. I feel like that'll be interesting to have. And then also like an entryway, right? Because most hotels had maybe a roundabout, like pull in to the lobby, to like valet your car, someplace you could park right outside the front. Some places they don't even have that, right? You gotta go park at a garage, and then you just kind of pay for your daily or nightly, hourly rate. With that being said, so kind of like the pathing, right? So in this example, we have the player start here, right? And then we have the player end, which is outside of the hotel to go to their car, basically. So kind of along the path is that's what you're thinking of, right? You're not gonna have just an open, barren lobby, right? It's gonna have accessories, right? It's gonna have stairs, it's gonna have chairs, it might have like columns and pillars because they need supporting beams to stay up. And then you kind of just path it out that way, right? So a big part of level designing or appropriate level designing is doing the research, getting all the details in order before you even start working on anything, so that when you have all those details in order, whether it's articles, pictures, videos, and then also tying into like other ideas that you may want to have inside of it are kind of unique to make it stand out, whether it's like really fancy statues or certain enemies or whatever you would like to put in there. It's getting that research right. Pictures usually do help out a lot because you could kind of get an idea of how a layout would look, and with that layout you add your own artistic flair to it, and then you could just go ahead and just pan out like the interactions with both the enemies, interactions with collectibles, keys to open locked doors, etc. Right, so you get all that research done beforehand, so when you start actually creating your map, blocking out an engine, getting a prototype set up, you have everything at your disposal to refer to make the building out and the prototyping much easier, right? Much more streamlined. I'm going to go over one other little topic when it comes to this. Let's go ahead and check that out right now. Alright, sweet. So now, just because we're talking about like a hotel lobby concept, right? We're starting getting references, getting ideas, your themes set up. This kind of ties into like the theme aspect of what you're building. Now we got to go into like the architecture work, right? So what exactly does a lobby in X theme look like? So I kind of pulled up a couple examples and getting credit to all the artists that created these. Super great work. I'm not taking any ideas from them whatsoever, just to kind of show like how different it could change, right? So first example of a medieval lobby, right? So we got our references. How do we want to design it? So you kind of see how like in this example we have big like open big tables, big open like cathedral ceilings, and then it helps for the artists when they go in and add their artistic flair on what they need to be designing, right? So we need to build like big columns, flags, a big old chandelier, again more like wooden, stone structures, and get that all in order so that they could start working on those assets and get ready to portray it for when you as the level designer goes on and starts blocking out the area and being able to show exactly how the layout will look, right? And having this set up, it makes the whole process significantly more streamlined. So because we want to be as efficient as possible with our time, right? So if we're efficient with our time, we want to make sure that the next step is going to be the artists or designers, if they're obviously giving you tools in order to build out the interactions, so they could go on there and work, do their magic, right? What they're known for. So this medieval one, we could also look at another example and see how much it changes, right? So the next one is a cyberpunk one. Again, you're still doing a hotel lobby, but you can see that the style and theme of it drastically changes. A little more futuristic, more like cloth, like leather, vegetation around too. A lot of more like neon lights. Like this probably just shows it a little more, right? So neon everywhere, dark, but also bright at the same time. That's gonna help us, because if we tell them, hey, look, I want a cyberpunk hotel, they might know what it is, but then they have no references on how to draw off of, right? So we want to make sure we paint it out or lay it out as concrete or concise as possible, so that they can make it, much more easier for their job to be able to fine tune it and bring it to life. And the same concept of apocalyptic, right? So you can see apocalyptic, it's dark, gloomy, destroyed, or not destroyed, more like just very like empty, but not empty, right? There's obviously stuff around, but there's nothing really going on in a sense, no life to it. Just rings like it's more of like it feels barren in a sense. And then the same concept like a Western one, right? So Western one's like bright lights, a little more organized, like polished wood, very simplistic, furniture, cloth with like wood trims, and kind of like brighter lights in a sense. to kind of like, again, paint the idea of what we're trying to portray to the artist so they can do their stuff in here. And it just makes it easier for everybody. It makes it easier for you, really, because if you're looking at these pictures, right, trying to get your ideas and your references, you kind of get an idea of a layout you might be interested in. It's like, oh, cool, you know, I like the way this one looks, right, this western lobby. I'm gonna design it this way, right? And you know, obviously as you're building it, you might realize, maybe I don't like the stairs on the left leading up to the rooms. I like it on the right instead. And then maybe it opens up to a separate room. Like this will move over here, and this will open up to a separate, like, Florida room is what it's called. So it just, as you're building it, you realize you could add your own like your own flair to it, so that the designers could, the artist could bring it to life, right, and be able to show exactly what you're trying to aim for. I'm gonna go into one other topic now. And hopefully that just kind of paint the idea of why it's important to, you know, get the themes in order, right, or get your ideas, your research in order, your references. Once that's done, then you work on getting your theme idea set up. You know, what is the theme? How do we have to design the level? And once you have those two things together, you go into the architecture work. A big thing with the architecture too is you don't always have to aim for like squared off rooms, right? Buildings, rooms, whatever. Like just as an example with the medieval, right? It's actually like almost like rounded. It looks like a rounded ceiling and very open. You know, it doesn't have to be just straight boxes. You add your flair to that, right? And that's a good thing to keep in mind, that when you're just sticking with your theme and designing your level, you want to be sure to get ideas and add in the concepts that are equivalent to what your theme is. You know, if your theme is going to be just blocked out cubes, that's perfectly fine. Or realistically, if you see like a medieval buildings are usually kind of like interesting shapes, you know, like rounded tops, rounded buildings, very open. You don't want straight like low hanging ceilings and square boxes everywhere, right? You want to try and design it as close as possible to something that will look realistic and provide that immersiveness to your players. I'm gonna go into one more other topic now. Things can be very interesting. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. So, you know, we talked about kind of like the approach with designing a new level, right? You know, what's your thought process with it? So, big thing I like to emphasize, when you're creating your maps and you have everything set up right, you're ready to go and send it over to the artist friend to actually go ahead and start building out the world, is as you're designing it, before you even send it over, is how do these like elements communicate to each other, right? So let's say, for example, right, we're working on a post-apocalyptic world. Everything's destroyed, you know, like clutter everywhere, dirty, gloomy, etc., right? So when you're designing that world and you have it set up, you got to keep in mind, right, before everything happened, right before the nuke went off and everybody just vanished off this earth, right? How did this area, like one room to the next, function? So again, what that ties into is, where is the toilet? As funny as that sounds, and it's kind of like a random question or random thing to like question while you're building out a map, is if you're making a building, right? Even like a standard, even a gas station, right? There's gonna be some things you're gonna keep in mind. You're gonna want the gas pumps. You're gonna want to do front desk. Maybe some like a little convenience section with snacks or whatever. But even then, gas stations have toilets. So you got to keep in mind when you're building it out, right? Like bring that realism to it. Now, again, if it's not really going towards realism, there might be a different discussion altogether. But realistically, even in that sense, right, you're still going to want to have that immersiveness. And immersive means, as simple and as dumb as it sounds, is we got to add a bathroom in here. And that ties into, again, just bringing in the space together and how each area of that level you're designing communicates to each other. How did they work before? How do they work during? How are they going to work afterwards, right? And hopefully that this kind of just helps paint an idea of how you should approach designing your levels moving forward. Kind of that constant thought process of, all right, I'm making a level, so I need to get research, right? And I'm just going to summarize everything now. You're going to start on a level. First thing you do is get thorough research. Research everywhere, right? Whether it's pictures, videos, links, snippets, even like if you're trying to get mechanics set up in there already, same concept too. But as much research as possible towards whatever you're designing, which ties into your theme, right? So once you have your references, you want to get your theme in line and make sure that as you're building out the level, it sticks to your theme. You don't want to be making a post-apocalyptic area, right, and add in a lot of foliage or make it very bright and uplifting and bubbly, because post-apocalyptic really isn't like that unless it's sort of oasis, and that's different. But realistically, it's usually pretty like cramped, dark, dirty, gloomy, whatever. So we got that, right? You're gonna get your theme. Now we're gonna go into the architecture. You're building out the buildings. You want to make sure that they all are cohesive, right? You know, and it's all blends in well together. So you start doing research on what the architecture of, again, a typical medieval building looks like, and you could get that off Google. It's beautiful. You could really get so much details off of just searching those keywords, right? And then once you have that done, you go on to the next step of sending it over to the artist. And you sometimes it's ideal to have an LDD set up, because when you have an LDD set up, you know, obviously link them to work on your project. And then when they work on your project, you refer to the LDD, and it'll show you a breakdown of what the level looks like, right? All right, so they start at point A, they go to this room, B, C, D, E, and then as along the way, if there's a certain asset you want, like, oh, here at point C, we want them to interact with a big golden statue. Cool. Now they know that they need to work on that, right? And then the last part is cross-referencing everything at the end to make sure they all communicate together very well, and it's all one smooth and concise experience as they're playing through the level, right? And I hope that was informative for you guys. If you have any questions, definitely leave a comment on the video. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate a subscribe, like on the video. If you want me to do some certain videos on concepts as well, then you could leave that for me too. Nonetheless, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.